Do you know how to master your internal clock for billionaire-level productivity? In the next few minutes, you'll learn how to master your internal clock. And once you do, you will never look at time the same way again. Look at people like Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg. They have the same 24 hours you do, but somehow they get years ahead. Why? Because the productivity advice most people follow is incomplete. And that mistake may be costing you your best years. You've probably told yourself, I need to work harder, I need more discipline, I need to manage my time better. But what if none of that is the real problem? What if the reason you feel stuck has nothing to do with laziness? Because right now you may be doing everything right. Waking up early, making plans, setting goals, and still feeling like you're falling behind. That's frustrating. And over time, that frustration turns into self-doubt. You start wondering, why can't I stay focused? Why do I lose momentum? Why does success feel harder for me? Those questions are dangerous, because when you don't have answers, you start blaming yourself. But here's the truth. You are not failing because you lack discipline. You are failing because your internal clock is controlling your life, and you don't even realize it. That's the hidden force behind your focus, your motivation, your energy, and your results. That's why 1 hour you feel unstoppable, and the next hour you can barely concentrate. That's why some people create massive results in less time while others stay busy and go nowhere. It's not about working more. It's about knowing when your mind performs at its best. And once you learn how to control that, everything changes. Focus becomes easier. Momentum becomes natural. Discipline stops feeling like a fight. And productivity becomes something you can create on command. The hidden reason most people feel unproductive. Most people think they are unproductive because they lack discipline. That belief is crushing, because when you believe you are the problem, every unfinished task feels personal. You plan your day. You promise yourself you'll focus. You start with good intentions, but then your energy fades, your focus slips, and the important work stays unfinished. By the end of the day, frustration takes over. You begin to wonder, why is this so hard for me? That question hurts, because after hearing it in your own mind enough times, you start believing something is wrong with you. That is where motivation begins to die. Because when effort feels heavy, people assume they are weak. But the truth is far different. Most people are not struggling because they are lazy. They are struggling because they are working at the wrong time. That is the hidden reason. Trying to force deep focus when your energy is low is like trying to run through mud. You can move, but every step feels harder than it should. That is what millions of people experience every day. They push harder, they force more effort, but progress still feels slow. Then they blame themselves. They think they need more discipline. But discipline is not the real issue. Timing is. Have you noticed that some hours feel effortless? Your mind feels sharp. You think clearly. You move fast. Then a few hours later, even simple tasks feel exhausting. Same person, same goals, different results. Why? Because your energy changes, your focus changes, and your brain does not perform the same way all day. But most people ignore that. They expect peak performance every hour. And when that doesn't happen, they feel like failures. That mindset creates a painful cycle. Low energy causes poor performance. Poor performance creates self-doubt. Self-doubt drains energy even more, and every day becomes harder than the last. That cycle keeps people stuck. Not because they lack potential, but because they misunderstand the problem. And the moment that changes, everything changes. Because when you realize, I am not broken, I am out of sync, you stop blaming yourself, and that creates hope. Because if timing is the problem, timing can be fixed. That means productivity is not about becoming someone else. It is about learning when you perform best. That is what high performers understand. They do not force productivity. They align with it. They protect the hours when their energy is strongest. And that is why they get more done with less struggle. Because when your best energy meets your most important work, momentum happens. And momentum changes everything. So the real question is not, why am I so unproductive? The real question is, when does my best energy show up? Because the answer to that question can completely change the way you work. And once you discover it, productivity stops feeling like a battle. What the internal clock really is, inside your body, There's a hidden rhythm controlling your energy. It decides when you feel alert, when you feel tired, when your focus is sharp, and when your brain feels foggy. That rhythm is your internal clock. And whether you realize it or not, it shapes the quality of your day. Think about those moments when your mind feels clear. Ideas come fast. Focus feels easy. Work flows. Then later, your energy drops. Simple tasks feel heavy. Your mind slows down. And suddenly everything feels harder. That is not laziness. That is your internal clock shifting. Your body was never designed to perform at the same level all day. Your energy naturally rises and naturally falls. The problem is that most people fight this rhythm. They expect themselves to stay focused from morning to night. They demand peak performance every hour. And when energy drops, they blame themselves. But the truth is simple. Your brain has peak hours. Moments when your energy is higher. Your thinking is sharper. Your focus is stronger. During those hours, your brain works with less resistance. That is why one focused hour can outperform an entire distracted afternoon. Because productivity is not about how much time you spend. It is about how strong your energy is while you spend it. That changes everything. Because if your best work is done during your peak hours, results improve. Tasks feel easier, momentum builds faster. But if your best hours are wasted on distractions, your most important work gets your leftover energy. And leftover energy creates weak results. This is why some people seem to achieve more in less time. They are not using more hours. They're using better hours. That is the power of understanding your internal clock. Because once you know when your energy is strongest, you can protect those hours. You can use them for the work that matters most. And when your best energy meets your best work, performance rises. Confidence rises. Progress rises. That is how momentum is built. So the goal is not to force the same energy all day. The goal is to recognize your peak energy and use it wisely. Because when you understand your rhythm, you stop fighting your body and start working with it. And that is where real productivity begins. Billionaires guard their peak hours like gold. The most successful people do not treat every hour the same. They know some hours are worth far more than others. Because some hours bring sharper focus, better decisions, more creativity, and faster progress. Those are the hours they protect. That is one of the biggest differences between average performers and elite performers. Average performers protect time. Elite performers protect their best time. That changes everything. Because your best hours are where your greatest results are created, yet most people waste them. They spend their sharpest hours checking messages, replying to emails, reacting to distractions, solving low-value problems. Then later, when it is finally time to do meaningful work, their energy is gone. Their focus is weaker. Their best mental power has already been spent. That is why progress feels slow. Because the hours that could change your future are being spent on things that do not matter. Think about that. The very time when your brain is strongest, it is often used on the least important tasks. That is like spending your best money on things with no return, and the cost is invisible. You do not notice the opportunity you lost. You only notice that your goals are moving slowly. That is why high performers guard their peak hours like gold. Because they understand something most people miss. Your best energy is your greatest asset. Not your schedule, not your tools, not your resources. Your focused energy. Because 1 hour of deep focused effort can create more value than an entire distracted day. That is why elite performers ask, what deserves my best energy today? That question creates clarity, and clarity creates progress. Because when your best energy goes to your most important work, results accelerate, momentum builds, confidence grows. That is how big goals move forward. But when your best energy is wasted on small tasks, important work gets delayed. And delayed progress creates frustration. That frustration is what makes people feel stuck. Not because they lack talent, but because they are spending their strongest hours on the wrong things. That is the real difference. Successful people are not just working harder. They are protecting the hours that matter most. And once you start doing that, everything changes. Because the moment your best hours serve your biggest priorities, your productivity rises fast. So ask yourself, where is your best energy going? Because where your best energy goes, your future follows. And the moment you protect those hours, you stop drifting and start building. That is where real progress begins. The 3 internal clock zones framework. If your energy changes throughout the day, then your work should change too. That is where most people get it wrong. They expect themselves to perform at the same level all day. They treat every hour the same. But every hour is not the same. Some hours are powerful, some are average, some are meant for recovery. And when you understand that, productivity becomes easier. Your day has 3 energy zones: the power zone, the performance zone, and the recovery zone. Each one serves a purpose. And when you match the right task to the right zone, your results improve fast. Let's start with the most important one. The power zone is when your energy is highest. Your focus is sharp, your mind is clear. This is when your best ideas happen. This is when your brain works with the least resistance. That means your most important work belongs here. Deep work, creative work, big decisions, anything that shapes your future. Because when your best energy meets your most important work, progress happens faster. This is where momentum is created. Then comes the performance zone. Your energy is still good, but your sharpest focus has dropped. This is the time for tasks that still matter, but do not need your highest mental power. Meetings, calls, admin work, execution tasks. This is where you maintain momentum, not where you create breakthroughs. Then comes the recovery zone. This is where your energy dips, your focus weakens, and pushing hard here creates frustration. But most people ignore this. They try to force peak performance during low energy hours. That drains them. And that is how burnout begins. The recovery zone is for lighter tasks. Planning, reflecting, resetting. Because recovery is not wasted time, it is what restores tomorrow's power zone. That changes everything. Because when you stop expecting peak performance all day, you stop fighting your natural rhythm. And when you stop fighting your rhythm, work feels easier. This is the real secret. The right task at the right time creates better results than more effort at the wrong time. That is the power of this framework. Because once you know your zones, you stop wasting your best hours. You stop forcing your weakest hours. And your energy starts working for you. That is when productivity becomes natural. So ask yourself, are you doing the most important work in your power zone or wasting it on distractions? Because the answer to that question may explain why progress feels slow. And once you align your work with your energy, everything begins to change. The 3 internal clock zones framework. If your energy changes throughout the day, then your work should change too. That is where most people get it wrong. They expect themselves to perform at the same level all day. They treat every hour the same. But every hour is not the same. Some hours are powerful, some are average, some are meant for recovery. And when you understand that, productivity becomes easier. Your day has 3 energy zones: the power zone, the performance zone, and the recovery zone. Each one serves a purpose. And when you match the right task to the right zone, your results improve fast. Let's start with the most important one. The power zone is when your energy is highest. Your focus is sharp, your mind is clear. This is when your best ideas happen. This is when your brain works with the least resistance. That means your most important work belongs here. Deep work, creative work, big decisions, anything that shapes your future. Because when your best energy meets your most important work, progress happens faster. This is where momentum is created. Then comes the performance zone. Your energy is still good, but your sharpest focus has dropped. This is the time for tasks that still matter, but do not need your highest mental power. Meetings, calls, admin work, execution tasks. This is where you maintain momentum, not where you create breakthroughs. Then comes the recovery zone. This is where your energy dips, your focus weakens, and pushing hard here creates frustration. But most people ignore this. They try to force peak performance during low energy hours. That drains them. And that is how burnout begins. The recovery zone is for lighter tasks. Planning, reflecting, resetting. Because recovery is not wasted time, it is what restores tomorrow's power zone. That changes everything. Because when you stop expecting peak performance all day, you stop fighting your natural rhythm. And when you stop fighting your rhythm, work feels easier. This is the real secret. The right task at the right time creates better results than more effort at the wrong time. That is the power of this framework. Because once you know your zones, you stop wasting your best hours. You stop forcing your weakest hours. And your energy starts working for you. That is when productivity becomes natural. So ask yourself, are you doing the most important work in your power zone or wasting it on distractions? Because the answer to that question may explain why progress feels slow. And once you align your work with your energy, everything begins to change. Most people believe the reason they are behind is simple. They need more time, more hours, more space in the day, more time to catch up. It sounds logical. But it is the belief that keeps people stuck. Because the people creating the biggest results do not have more time. They have the same 24 hours. The difference is not time. The difference is timing. That changes everything. Because when people believe they need more time, they focus on adding hours, waking earlier, working longer, staying busy. But more hours do not guarantee more progress. If your energy is low, more hours just create more exhaustion. That is why so many people work all day and still feel behind. Because the problem is not the amount of time. The problem is how that time is used. 1 hour of focused energy can outperform an entire distracted afternoon. 1 hour in your power zone can create more progress than 4 hours in low energy. That is the shift. Success is not about doing more. It is about doing the right work when your energy is strongest. That is how high performers think. They do not ask, how can I work longer? They ask, how can I make my best hours count? That question creates leverage. Because when your strongest energy goes to your highest value work, results accelerate. Momentum builds. Confidence rises. That is how extraordinary progress happens. Not through endless effort, but through intentional effort. This is why some people achieve more in less time. Not because they are superhuman, but because they protect their best hours. They understand that not all time is equal. Some hours carry more focus, more creativity, more clarity. And when those hours are used wisely, everything changes. That is the billionaire mindset shift. Stop chasing more time. Start mastering better timing. Because when you stop measuring productivity by hours and start measuring it by energy, you take back control. Now your schedule stops controlling your results. Your decisions control your results. That creates freedom. Because if success depended on more hours, you would be powerless. But if success depends on better timing, you can change it. That is where hope returns. Because you do not need to become a different person. You need to use your best energy differently. That means your future can change starting now. So ask yourself, are you trying to create success with more time or with better timing? Because that answer shapes everything. The moment you master your best hours, you stop feeling behind. And you start moving forward with power. Right now, you know something most people never learn. You know that productivity is not about working longer. It is not about staying busy. And it is not about pushing yourself harder every day. The real secret is simple. Success is about using your best energy at the right time. That truth changes everything. Because for so long, many people believed they were the problem. They thought they were lazy, undisciplined, always behind. And after believing that long enough, they started lowering their expectations. They stopped trusting themselves. They stopped believing real change was possible. That is what keeps people stuck, not lack of effort, not a lack of ability, lack of belief. Because when belief disappears, action disappears. And when action disappears, progress stops. But now you see the truth. You're not failing because you're weak. You're struggling because your energy is out of alignment. And alignment can be changed. That means your future can change. That means progress is possible. That means the life you want is still within reach. This is where everything begins. Because the moment you realize, I do not need more time. I need better timing. You take your power back. And when you take your power back, everything starts to shift. Your focus becomes intentional. Your habits become stronger. Your progress becomes real. And once progress becomes real, belief returns. That is how transformation starts. Not in one huge moment, but in one intentional decision. One decision to protect your best hours. One decision to stop wasting your strongest energy. One decision to let your best effort serve your biggest goals. That is where momentum begins. And momentum changes everything. Because every meaningful result starts with one focused hour. 1 hour used with purpose. 1 hour aligned with your best energy. That is how confidence is built. That is how discipline is built. That is how your future is built. So the question now is simple. What will you do with your next best hour? Will you give in to distractions? Or will you use it to build a life you truly want? Because your future is being shaped by how you use your best energy today. And the moment you protect that energy, you stop drifting. You start building. That is where your next level begins. So make the decision now. Protect your power zone, guard your best hours, use them with purpose. Because your best life is not waiting for more time, it is waiting for better timing. And that timing begins with your very next decision. If you are ready to take control of your best hours, type this in the comments. I will protect my power zone. Make it your promise. Because the moment you commit to a higher standard, your life starts to change, and your next level begins now. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, my friends, for such powerful videos.